All right, good morning. Oh my goodness, it's so good to see all of you all here, to be just in community with you all. So I just want to thank you all so much. I want to first thank our advocates. When we think about the process here, this has been community driven from the very start. So I want to start by thanking our community, start by thanking our panelists, our incredible panelists who are here with us, and all of you also. Round of applause. Thank you all for being with us, for being here. I, of course, want to thank my colleagues, our co-founders of this caucus, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman, thank you, and Congresswoman Adalila Grijalva, who should be walking in at any moment. We'll give her another round when she comes. But today, we are so proud because we are officially launching the first People's Environmental Justice Caucus. We, of course, hope that not only will this caucus continue this just incredibly important work, but that it will also honor the legacies of our true spiritual founders, Congressman Raul Grijalva, Adelita's father, of course, and Congressman Donald McKeeshan. I know that everybody in this work know that they were both tireless advocates for this work. They laid a groundwork that is just, it's important, but also when we say that things are a little bit easier every step of the way, every generation, it is because of the dedication and the work that people like our congressmen did to get us deeper into this fight for justice. But we all know, and I don't have to, and we can get right into it really quickly. I don't think I have to tell anybody in here how critical this moment is. We were in a critical moment before we entered into this administration. The times were critical and have been critical for some time. We know that the climate crisis, as we've been saying, has been existential. And now that we are in the midst of an authoritarian takeover of our government, it is more important than ever that we be rooted in this work, that we not run from it, and no matter how hard it is, that we rededicate ourselves to this. And when we talk about the various levels of discouragement that we're going to get and that we will see, we know, right? Last Congress and for the last few years, the work that you all have been doing did result in tangible change and tangible victories that we saw. So to see and to feel that work is now being rolled back, that is being attacked, and that the progress that we made has been stalled can be incredibly discouraging. But we also know that we are built for this moment. We know that the work that it took us to get to those successes and those victories was not slight in the first place. So I know that this movement is still built for this. I know that we still have that fight in us, and whether we are tackling it at the federal level or if we're tackling at our locals, our states, that we all have some work to do right now. So I just want to be honest, as we talk about what Donald Trump has done, as he's ruled as an authoritarian, he has gutted, and we've seen it, he's gutted the endangerment fund, and he's weakened our pollution limits. He's been handing out exemptions. And let's be honest about who his policies are for, because we know it's not for our communities, it's not for our kids, it's not for our elders, it's not for working families. We know that it's for fossil fuel executives. It's for corporate CEOs, it's for his donors who helped him to get back into office. And we see that every day where I'm from in Western Pennsylvania. And I did not introduce myself, I'm Summer Lee, and I represent, I do this all the time. I'm Summer Lee, and I represent Pennsylvania's 12th Congressional District. I represent the Mon Valley of Pennsylvania, where the steel industry was born. When we talk about the steel that built America, the industries that built up our country, I lived right at the fence of those places when I was growing up. We saw, obviously, the benefits. We saw the labor movement growing and born in our area. No shade to Detroit. I know. Pittsburgh is a union town, and we're proud of that legacy. But we also recognize that the legacy that came from it also was poor air quality and water quality. We have some of the worst air quality in the nation. When I was running for office and when I was a young one running for state house, I was running because the kids in my school district were more likely than most places in the nation to have asthma, to have respiratory illnesses. People were more likely to have cancer. This is how we grew up in our area. And in fact, we were so accustomed to this that it was just the norm. That kids in our community, when my mom was growing up, knew, and they were able to time their day by the signals from the mail. In the morning time, they would come up and they would sweep up the soot. And in the evening, they would recycle that. They grew so accustomed to the smell of the sulfur that they started to become noseblind to it. I didn't come to environmental justice through professional work. I didn't come through it through education work, but I came through it through lived experience. Like so many others here, I had to figure out what it meant to be poisoned. I had to figure out what it meant for our communities to have worse outcomes than other places. And I remember when I left Pittsburgh for the first time and I didn't smell the air. That was abnormal to me. So we take this work seriously, but I also recognize that I would not be in government if it were not for our environmental justice movement. That if we did not work in concert with our elected officials in our community, that we wouldn't have been able to stop fracking proposals in my district. So we have successes in this work. But in Western Pennsylvania, just like in Detroit and Arizona and everywhere else in this country, we have so much at stake right now, and that's why we're here today. That is the reason why we started this caucus. The reality is that we absolutely can build a future where no one has to choose between a good job and clean air and clean water for their kids. They shouldn't have to choose between a union and COPD or cancer. We are building that future here, and we are doing it with the people who are most impacted, who have solutions for the problems that face us if we tap into them. This caucus, this People's Environmental Caucus, is about how do we put the people who are most impacted in the places where they can be the most impactful. How do we make sure that my colleagues are hearing from people who have lived experience and not just the people who get some dollars from industry? So that's why it's so important that we bring you all here, that we do this. This process that has led to this is the foundation of our work. And we will stay committed to this people-centered process, even as this caucus seeks to bring in more members of Congress into the work that we've been doing, this sacred work. So at this moment, we have a choice, right? We can let polluters keep writing the rules, or we can stand together and we can demand better. And I'm looking forward to the conversation with our movement partners, with Vernice Marr, and with Dr. Batista. And I thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Rashida Tlaib, for her a few words, and then Rashida will move us along from there. But thank you all so much.
Thank you all so much for being here. I just cannot stress enough the importance of this moment. We all know one of the many wars that Trump administration has started is a war on environmental justice. It has been very clear that he doesn't care if we are drinking clean water or breathing clean air. I am a person that truly believes that children can't learn if they're hungry, but they also can't learn if they're breathing dirty air. Just like Summer and Adelita, I grew up thinking that smell was normal. Smelling rotten eggs after playing outside was normal. I thought all the folks that had asthma and respiratory issues and cancer in my community was normal. And then one day, Raul Grijalva came to the most polluted zip code in all of Michigan, 48217, which is right in my backyard, is where we had the only petroleum refinery, and the state was in that backyard. It was a majority black neighborhood. And Raul sat with everybody else, and if you knew Raul, it was like having one of our neighbors there. And he gave us a lot of hope. It wasn't just the environmental justice for all, but the fact that somebody all the way from Arizona cared about the fact that our children was living and paying a huge cost of having corporate polluters that be out of control. We know that environmental justice ties so many important threads together. It's about protecting natural resources and our public health. It's about fighting discrimination and corporate greed. It's about creating good, clean jobs, investing in healthy, resilient communities. I know we're up against very powerful forces, but we always have, with or without him being president. You know this. I feel like in many ways it has been bipartisan in fighting against corporate polluters. We know that there's often very little room for the environmental justice voices and perspectives in Washington, D.C. We talk so much in our communities, do the work in our communities, but we wanted an avenue and a way for all of you to bring your voices here and be consistently here, and that's why we're creating this Environmental Justice Caucus. We can't just be about environmental justice, we have to be doing it with environmental justice communities. And just know one of the key objectives of this caucus is to reintroduce the landmark Environmental Justice for All Act. I remember when Raul Grijalva came, I ended up getting the east side of Detroit, and you got to ask folks about the east side of Detroit. He was just going with me, and he's like, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? I said, Raul, look, they even got the sweeper out, cleaning the dust, because you came. I need you to pretend you're going to come again and just cancel. And he's like, okay. No, he was serious. He was like, okay. And even in that moment of just watching that all happen, the fact that we as members of Congress have the power to convene. We have the power of the letterhead, the power to convene, but also the power to do this kind of form of, again, bringing these voices in a collective way. So I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful to be part of the formation and creation of this. We have the honor of carrying the work of Raul and Makishan, and I know that many of us, as our sisters in service, as we come together, we're always going to make sure it's centered on the beautiful work that they both have started. But I know growing up in Southwest Detroit, we really just thought people just didn't care about us and dismissed us. They didn't care because their cars got run, right? They got gas and electricity into their home. They didn't care. They got clean water while the schools in our community had garbage bags over it because it was so infested with lead and plastics and everything. And we have to change that. We have to understand that when one of my seniors says to me, it's like we're the sacrifice zone, Rashida. You've heard that. We're the sacrifice zone. And I'm tired of feeling this sense of helplessness from them. It can be different. And I want you to know, no matter who is in the White House, we have to be consistent. We have to never waver. We are tired of crumbs. This Environmental Justice Caucus will not be settling for crumbs. And so I just know that when I see that senior citizen, she knows who she is. And I wish she could have been here. She's one of the most incredible person ever. She says, stop calling it the Environmental Protection Agency. It is the Permission to Pollute Agency. And it always is in my mindset, and I got to change it, right? I got to do everything I can so that she does see it as an Environmental Protection Agency and get it back to where it needs to be. And so I'm incredibly grateful that the daughter of Raul Grijalva is here, who, by the way, is making she is hitting the ground running. I love that, and I know Raul had a lot of part to it, but you're bringing, it's that female touch. Delita is incredible, and so honored that she is doing this with Summer and I, along with us, and again, has just been excited and bringing a lot of light into this movement. With that, give her a big round of applause.
Buenos días. Buenos días. ¿Cómo estamos? ¿Todo bien? Bien. Más o menos, right? So that's why we're here, actually. I grew up in a Superfund site. So my family, we have cancers, neighbors have cancers that are so rare that doctors didn't know what they were. But because everyone in the neighborhood had something similar, it just happened in that neighborhood. That was our reality. I thought that thyroid cancer was just super normal because my nana had it, her neighbor had it, the lady down the street had it. We have young men that have testicular cancer, the age of 19. That's not normal, but that's our reality, and that's why we're all here today. We have to fight so our communities have a voice. And when these polluters come and just throw their trash, we're gonna say not in our neighborhood. You're not gonna do it around us. You're not gonna continue to abuse us, and we're just gonna sit there and take it. We're not. And so I am so very proud to be joined here with my sisters in the caucus, in the fight, because I think it's really important. I proudly represent Arizona's 7th Congressional District, where environmental justice is not just theoretical. It's something that people live with every single day. In Southern Arizona, we are on the front lines of extreme heat. Workers, especially farm workers and construction workers, are facing longer, more dangerous days, putting their health at risk. Communities along our border are dealing with air pollution, water scarcity, and lasting impacts of extractive industries that too often leave contamination behind. And not contamination that you can't see. You see it. It's everywhere. There are more children in our communities that have asthma and rashes than anywhere else. And it always happens in communities of color, right? So for our indigenous communities, communities in my district, environmental justice is also about protecting sacred land, like Oak Flat, where culture, identity, and environmental stewardship are deeply connected. These realities are a result of policy decisions that far too long have left communities out of the process. But what brings us here today is that communities never stopped organizing. We never stopped leading. And that is deeply personal to me. My dad, Congressman Raul Grijalva, was a strong believer in the process that led to environmental justice for all. One driven by community, shaped by on the front lines, and grounded in lived experience. He gave us a blueprint of how to do this right. And so I am so glad that this is an umbrella of people that we're bringing more people to the table, because it is our communities that are suffering. And it makes the most sense, I have to say, that 3 women are leading this together. We represent communities all across this nation. It is bigger than just one area, and it is bigger than just one person. And we're gonna be an umbrella that we bring more and more people to the table, because those members of Congress that don't understand what it's like to live in a polluted area, we can bring you straight to our community so you better understand. And as we continue pushing this legislation forward, I'm honored that it carries the legacy alongside the leadership of Donald McEachin. That recognition reflects that what this movement has always been about: community, justice, and accountability. This caucus is going to continue that work, because right now we are seeing efforts to weaken protections, to sideline community voices, and to move projects forward without meaningful consultation or accountability. And we know what that looks like, and that is why this moment matters. Environmental justice must be at the center of policymaking, not an afterthought, like, oh yeah, maybe we should let them know. It means ensuring impacted communities are not just consulted, but are leading in shaping solutions. It means recognizing that climate justice is labor justice, that because workers facing extreme heat and pollution are the ones keeping our economy running. And it means treating environmental justice as a matter of dignity. So as we launch this caucus, our goal is clear. It's not just to talk about environmental justice, but to deliver it. To pass policies that reflect what communities are facing, to hold agencies and corporations accountable, and to ensure that no community is left behind. I'm proud to be in this fight with you. Muchas gracias. Thanks for being here. And now I get to introduce the panel. Yay! I'm very excited. So, it says Mar, but it's Marilyn. Mar. Mar Cepeda Salazar, Legislative Director, Climate Justice Alliance. Dr. Ana Batista, Director, Tishman Environment and Design Center, the New School, and our moderator, Bernice Miller-Travis, co-founder and board member of We Act for Environmental Justice, Executive Vice President, Metropolitan Group. Thank you all for being here, and I hand it off to you.
We're just because the sun is like,
yeah. So when I, good morning all. Good morning. When I hear Adelita talk, I think about Rosemarie Augustine and Tucsonians for a Clean Environment, who was a founding member of the environmental justice movement and had led that battle. When I hear Summer talk, I think about the Hill District CDC and the Homewood Children's Center folks long in the battle. And when I hear Rashida Teague talk, I think about Detroiters working for environmental justice, and United Auto Workers, and Dr. Andrea Kidd Taylor, and folks who were there at the very, very beginning from the places where they are from and where they represent. So when they talk about that this is inside them, that this is what they grew up in, this is the legacy that we bring to you. It's not a fad. This is the fight for our lives. So in the room are folks from Tejas, all the way from Houston, Texas. Our indigenous brothers and sisters who came to bring the word and the context and the history of this struggle, who are here with us. Folks from We Act for Environmental Justice in New York and DC. Thank you all for getting on the train. And so many people watching us online. So here we are back in the fight, or here we are still in the fight, is probably really what the theme should be. So you've heard who our amazing panelists are. And also let me say that here in the final week of International Women's Month, women members of Congress restarting and leading this caucus. Women panelists, it's just an accident, it just happens to be 3 women, right? But the women have been on the front lines of this movement. Our brothers have been right there with us, but we were the ones who noticed something was wrong with our kids. Something was wrong with our parents, our grandparents. Our gardens weren't growing, our trees were dying, right? Paint was coming off our houses, our cars were being stripped, right? Just sitting in front of our houses because something was terribly wrong with the air that we breathe. We stepped to the front lines and we stayed at the front lines. And no diss to our brothers, but the sisters have been holding it down, just saying. So let's get into our conversation. So we are here, as Rashida said, we are here because there was so much work done by Congressman Grijalva, Congressman McEachin. Rashida talked about, and I forgot about this, the robust national roving conversation. It moved around the country, and they went and brought the conversation into the communities so that when the House Committee on Natural Resources was debating individual pieces of legislation, they could talk about what it would mean for various provisions in those bills to be enacted and to provide more protection for communities. There was on-the-ground public engagement. There were in-person hearings, virtual town halls, hearings in district and on Capitol Hill, office visits. People did everything. In order to get congressional legislation moved, you can't just come up with a good idea and then think it's going to get to the floor. You have to have a national movement. We have a national movement. These are our leaders to make that happen, but there's a lot of work we have to do in between. I can tell you that personally, as we just lost our effort to pass a cumulative impacts bill in Maryland on Monday, it died, because we didn't have what we are doing here now. We will next year, God willing.
Yes, you will, you will.
So let's get into our questions. The current political landscape. Mara, we're going to ask you to lead on this, and then you're going to chime in, Anna. What challenges do EJ advocates face when trying to advance environmental justice policies at the federal level?
Thank you, Bernice. Good morning, buenos dias. Thank you so much for having us, and happy Women's History Month. You took that away from me. I was gonna mention that. I'm so happy to see and be part of this panel. It's definitely a historic moment. Thank you to the Congresswoman for allowing the opportunity and to lead us and convening us. Yes, so there's definitely a lot of implications, as we heard, of the political landscape, but I also want to recognize something. This year in October, there will be the 35th anniversary of the first People of Color Summit from 1991. And this is just a representation of that EJ is not going anywhere. No matter who the president is, we have been through the process. We are standing on the shoulders of so many leaders of the movement that started this work, that were out on the streets protesting, and now we're able to carry that work forward, right? So I just want to continue to say that commitment. I mean, from the rollbacks of funding to the de-gutting and deregulation of bedrock environmental laws, harmful deregulatory permitting reform, the expansion of data centers for AI infrastructure and its supporting infrastructure, there's just so much going on, right? So one of the biggest challenges that we are seeing is money, the lobbying power. The industry is embedded in everything that we are seeing and how they are controlling and dictating what happens in our government. So we are not just fighting to keep this momentum and this movement alive in our policies that provide a little bit of a legal redress and protection for our communities, but we are fighting against big money and big industry, right? So I think that is a huge challenge, but at the same time, an opportunity for us to recognize that this is why it's so important to come together and work together and find the champions in the different levels of government that are on our side and provide some of the history that we've been part of, that I was also very, very proudly, and it has been the honor of my life to carry the Environmental Justice for All Act as well, with late Representative Grijalva and Mr. McEachin. And what a way to honor their work today. I think he would be really proud. And I think the other thing is continuing to highlight that another challenge is the people out there don't consider access to clean air, clean water, and a clean environment a basic human right. We need to continue raising that bar of it is a basic human right to have access to clean air, clean water, and a clean environment. There's no separation between that. So when we advocate for environmental justice, we are also advocating for human rights, basic human rights, right, that we all deserve. So yeah, as we continue to be, to be witness of all these attacks, we are also able to use this as an opportunity and raise the bar of what we do deserve and come together. But I'm happy to explore more and see what Dr. Baptista has.
Ana,
Yeah,
can you weigh in? You've been leading some national convenings and conversations. What's hitting the table? What are the challenges we face in this political moment, and to move federal legislation?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to thank the congresswomen, these amazing leaders. I want to give it up to them again. Very honored to be here with you all, and also to see such tremendous leadership in this moment, because so many people are walking away from environmental justice right now. They're acting like it's some sort of toxic word or toxic thing that can't be spoken anymore, and it's a lie. And I think everyone in this room is a testament to how important and central environmental justice is. Mara said it. It's a basic human right, and for many of us, it's a lived experience. It's, you're not going to erase our lived experience and what we are going to continue to demand for our children, for the next generation. So I feel incredibly grateful for today, because in such a bleak moment that we're in right now, being able to see People's Environmental Justice Caucus proudly and unabashedly in your face, we are going to continue to demand this for our communities, because it's not a crazy thing. Actually, the biggest problem I think right now is that, the opposition is attempting to demonize basic things that everybody wants. It's not just something for a small few group of people. Clean air and clean water resonates. Let's see, I looked up the poll, because I was like, I know I'm a professor here, so I gotta have some receipts. And it says 3/4 of Trump voters and 80% of all voters support increasing federal funding to communities disproportionately harmed by air and water pollution. That's from just 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. 7 in 10 adults in the United States believe in the goal of environmental justice, in the goal of it. Not the rhetoric, not what they try to tell you. So as my daughter would say, stop gaslighting us. We need to be very unabashedly pro-environmental justice, because that just means pro-basic things that everyone should have. And so I think that's the number one thing we need to do and talk about, not in jargony ways, but in very common sense, bread and butter, everyday things. So the People's Hearing, this National People's Hearing Tour, echoes and follows the model the Representative Grijalva modeled for us with McEachin, where they went all over the country. And they didn't sit in a room and do policy. You've been in a lot of those rooms, Bernice, right? You sit and you develop the most elegant, technically precise policy, and then it goes nowhere, or nobody knows anything about it. And I have to say that in my professional career, that tour that Representative Grijalva did all over the country was very powerful, not just because it was not performative. It was meaningful and substantive. Those tours not only brought along people to make them feel seen and heard, but their solutions, the things that they were talking about as what they demanded and needed in their community, showed up in the policy. Things like funding, annual grants to develop, to address public health disparities, that was in the bill. Funding to require cumulative health impact assessments, supporting access to parks and recreation. Doesn't sound like a radical agenda, right? But all of that came out of people presenting that. And that now we see the National People's Tour. It went to Pittsburgh, it went to Tucson, and in those places you have hundreds of people, ordinary people. These are not professional organizers. They don't necessarily belong to any organizations. They were there to testify for 3 minutes, not just about what they were experiencing, everything from their children have cancer to their homes are shaking and vibrating. They talked about all those experiences, but then they often had this brilliant list of demands, of solutions. And the thing that always compels me and inspires me is the rigor and excellence of the solutions that people bring forward from their lived experiences. And so those people's hearings really echo that previous tour, and I think they will continue, and they will continue to feed, hopefully, this process, because we need to amplify and get out that these things, clean air, clean water, just healthy communities, are basic things, basic human rights, but also things that everybody needs to enjoy and needs to popularize in a way that is not going to get demonized, And I think that's the thing, that the frustration I think people are feeling now more and more with these industry insiders is going to fuel, I think, a lot of people and motivate a lot of people to get behind EJ in a way that maybe previously they saw it as like a niche area, and now it could become a more popular area of focus.
Can I add something really quick? I think, again, going back to the opportunity lens here, a lot of people out there are saying, oh, no, you can't do anything or move any policies or priorities at the federal level. Can I just tell you that that's a lie? This is a clear example of what those efforts look like, and again, that is supported and empowered by the people that are leading the fight, but also living it along. So whether, and a lot of people may focus on the flashy things, but we also gotta focus on the little things. Like, what are we able to move forward? Is it an amendment? Is it talking points that we're able to deliver at a hearing? Is it, recommendations for a markup? Now with this whole thing of data centers, we're working with a lot of you all to giving you recommendations of what you guys can do and adapt them to policies. That is progressive winning, no matter if it's flashy or not. So again, just regardless of the political challenges, we are able to still move priorities forward, and even if they're not flashy. Yeah.
So this makes me think of a new question that we hadn't put down. I have one that we hadn't put down that we were going to talk about this morning, and that is when you think about EJ for All, and when we say for all, who are we talking about? So when I met you, you were working at an organization called the Ironbound Community Against Toxic Waste. But I want you to say, and I want to take this back to the very first thing that this administration did within hours of coming into power, was to put forward an executive order that demonized diversity, equity, and inclusion. And within 24 hours, they came back with a second iteration of that, and they put environmental justice on that list. When we say environmental justice for all, who are we talking about? Who lives in the Iron Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Bernice, for shouting out my hometown, Newark. So, yeah, I mean, I grew up similar, I think, to some of the stories, is growing up with the smells, right? The garbage incinerator, the fat rendering. You know, we had all of that growing up, and I thought it was normal. And this was a community, it was mostly Black, Latino, immigrant community, and, you know, working class, but also very poor.
But were there white people in that community?
Absolutely, many white people, and actually.
Point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah, and then a lot of the communities that we heard at the people's hearings. Let me just say this: the people's hearings had a vast diversity of people. Rural, like farmers. We had, you know, folks, suburban moms, white moms who were like, you know, my kid is coughing and has asthma now. I'm living next to a frack field, or I'm living next to a data center now. You know, so it touches a lot more people than we often think about.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that people forget, is that it cuts across communities, and now more than ever, I actually think now more than ever, people are feeling the pressure of pollution in their backyards as we've deregulated, and we've opened the doors, the floodgates, for a lot more pollution to enter the rural heartland.
Yes.
Suburban outskirts. All of a sudden, many more communities are starting to feel some of these pressures on their water supplies, on their land development. And so I think it is also an important moment to bring forward the EJ for All part, because I think it is a populist demand that cuts across many different communities that are seeking not just protection from the polluters and these very powerful industries, but also they're looking for basic investments. So many of our communities have been disinvested in systemically. We know this around cities, but it's also true in the rural areas of our communities, in our indigenous communities. So many places have not seen a real investment in their water systems, their utility systems, even in like the basics, you know, of where they can find jobs. So, you know, I think that the EJ for All, if it has any opportunity to bring in some more investments again too, I think communities will feel get very much behind that, because they want to see infrastructure built.
Yeah, thank you for that. Mar, who is the Climate Justice Alliance fighting for?
We are fighting for people all across political stripes, socioeconomic backgrounds, and we're also fighting for the future stewards of climate and environmental justice as well, because while many of us are standing on the shoulders of those that came before us, and we're now, you know, taking this movement forward, we also have to prepare the future generation, and that's why we are also fighting for their future, so they can lead us and in the direction that we all deserve. And a little bit of a personal story, also somebody that migrated out of Mexico into Arizona because of water contamination and fleeing for our security, and then years later come to find out that we live in a Superfund site, right, in Arizona. 85706, the most polluted zip code in Tucson, Arizona, and then, you know, again, on a personal level, having my stepdad have terminal cancer, you know, so it's like rare cancer where most of the immigrant communities in Tucson live that have no access to medical or any type of care or resources, and even language access to you know, advocate for themselves. So again, the importance of it's like all across all political stripes, socioeconomic backgrounds, but also multilingual and those needs as well.
Thank you for that. So I hope everyone can hear that the point is environmental justice has always been about all the people who've been left out of environmental protection, of human rights protection, of public health safety. All of the things that so many other people take for granted, we have had to fight for, tooth and nail. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you live in those communities, we're fighting for you. And this bill, EJ for All, that we will see come back again, is about the totality of trying to deliver a clean environment for every single person, no matter, as Mar said, your economic status, no matter where you live, no matter what part of the country you are, rural, suburban, urban, ex-urban, immigrant, wherever you are. That's what this bill is about. So I want to dispel the notion that's been put forward by this administration that we are fighting for a small sliver of the American public. And while I'm at it, I hope you all saw this data point about a month ago, that for the first time in the recorded history of this country, the majority of the population are non-white people, are people of color. And that has a lot to do with this political moment that we're in. But what we can't do is allow this moment to separate us one from the other, to not lift up our people wherever they are. If they're in rural Pennsylvania and they're drinking contaminated water, which is going to kill them and their children and their livestock, we are fighting for you, right? Let me not get on a soapbox. Let's keep going with this. This is a panel here. That's why Dr. Beverly Wright says I'm not a good moderator.
We also have 15 minutes left.
I know, so let's go on with our questions, right? So the context of this conversation this morning is really about bringing EJ for All back to life, right? And moving it again through the legislative process. What's that going to take? What's that going to require?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I think that is kind of in the process already, but the first step is having the Congresswoman's commitment to reintroduce, in which we have received, which is the first next step of reintroducing Environmental Justice for All Act and hopefully renaming it to Grijalva Makichan, Environmental Justice for All Act. And yeah, so before having that reintroduction, because process is important and because we want to mirror and honor community voices that were part of it 5-6 years ago, we want to implement that same process this time around. And so the bill, unfortunately, because of the political circumstances and because there has been a lot of rollbacks of bedrock environmental laws and deregulation and just attacks and gutting of NEPA, for example, Clean Water Act, Clean Air, we need to update the bill, right? And that's gonna take a lot of our brains. It's gonna take legal analysis of what is possible, yeah, and again, come together and gather as we did years past to build the bill. It's also going to take, you know, a lot of leadership from the congressional offices, but also our organizations. We have to understand that the political climate for them as well. They are in the minority currently. They need our support and our convening power to bring people together so we can, you know, revamp the process again. So they're able to collaborate with us and lead this work together. And let's see.
More folks to join the EJ Caucus, yeah. I know. They're calling my representatives like, the EJ Caucus? Are you going to be part of the EJ Caucus? You better be. So really making sure that we encourage all of our representatives to join the caucus and be forceful advocates alongside Congresswomen, and also joining with organizations and with the Congresswomen to try to, you know, review the bill, hopefully support more input into the bill so that we can strengthen it and also garner more support and visibility for it. I think one of the most important things we can do is to keep talking about this and keep putting it out in the spotlight so we can amplify these solutions, we can start to build more momentum around support for it across the country. I know there's going to be more people's hearings, national people's hearings, and we're going to Florida, maybe to Michigan, we'll see. And I think those are all wonderful opportunities to encourage people to come out and get behind the new bill and support it. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities to also, even though we can't always convene all the way the committee used to, we have a lot going on around the country already that we can tap into to amplify people's voices and support.
So what can the people watching on the live stream and the people here in the room with us, what can they do to help us in this moment to bring the bill forward and across the line?
Yes, so if you haven't learned or heard about Environmental Justice for All Act, connect with us or Google it. It's Environmental Justice for All Act. Make sure there is a Grijalva somewhere in there because it has to be the federal bill. So there's different fact sheets around that you can learn from and understand the pillars and the basis of the bill. Basically, Mr. Grijalva used to call it the Holy Trinity of Environmental Justice for All Act, which included a Civil Rights Act fixed to the Sandoval Amendment and cumulative impacts consideration and strengthening NEPA, right? Those are what we want to focus on. And if you haven't, contact your member of Congress, so that member of Congress or senator, because there is an EJ caucus on the House side and in the Senate, to learn about that bill and understand why they need to carry that or collaborate with EJ caucus folks or join the caucus so they can move forward on that bill as well. And I mean, there's plenty of organizations advocating for it, but not only advocating, that have been and were part of the process. So connect with us, and there's plenty of us in this room. And yeah.
So let's end where we began. Why is environmental justice important in this moment, and why is it important to get this bill passed?
Go ahead.
You go.
All right. I mean, I think we've said it all, but honestly, we need. I mean, now more than ever, now that we see so many things being destroyed, we need to create. We need. We were just at a conference where Norma Wong was reminding us that the opposite of war is not peace but creation. And that's what this bill represents for me, is an opportunity to rebuild. Even better and stronger. Even though we know so many things are being torn down right now, this is also an opportunity for rebirth and potentially getting things and growing the ambition of the things we hope to get. And that's what my deepest wish is that we really open up our imaginations and our ambition and pour all of our love and attention into this bill. And we might not get all of it, but it will help us in that, in that pathway to creating more of the things we want and need.
Yes. Laura?
I think we are in a very critical moment of, how can I say this? Yeah, there's a rise of values that are changing right now all over our country, all over the world, and we need to hone into that and tune into that. People are now more aware of the interconnections of injustice, no matter if you're in the Congo, if you're in Mexico, if you're in the US, right? There's some sort of social values change. There's also a rise for more caring and community tending, right? And that is exactly what Environmental Justice for All Act represents, and this caucus. So we, so just honing into that and understanding that there is, going back to this, there is an opportunity to use this as momentum, and using the example of the people's hearings, for example, learn from the policy recommendations that are coming from the ground up, use that and inform policy making. And like what we saw through the Environmental Justice for All bill is that even if the bill itself didn't move forward, a lot of the policies and sections and provisions were able to move forward. So our goal is to move the whole bill, but we can still move priorities forward as well.
And the bill, actually, sections of that bill ended up being codified in state bills. Like
Yes.
the New Jersey EJ law really got inspiration in entire sections from the EJ.
So let me wrap us up. And first of all, say to the audience, you might have thought it slightly disrespectful when I refer to our members by their first names, but it's because they're family. But Representative Lee, Representative Grijalva, Representative Tlaib have done the first thing on the list, restart the Congressional People's Environmental Justice Caucus. So that's the first thing on the list, right? So we've done that, and here we are today. Back to that. And then the Congressional Environmental Justice Working Group needs to come along. That's our members, right? We have a really hot race going on in the 5th Congressional District in Maryland. but our current representative needs to support this bill, particularly since he's in the leadership of the Democratic Congress. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about you, sir, whom I have the greatest respect and regard for. But all of us need to get our members involved and engaged in this process, right? We need to grow the Act's base of supporters, as was said. That includes not just the environmental and climate justice advocates, but the civil rights movement, the green and mainstream environmental movement. Communications and political strategists need to be with us. And these national people's hearings need to go forth and happen all over the country. We need a strategy, we need tactics, we need our leadership who are here in the room with us and others. That is the way that we're going to move this forward. Do not sleep on this. It's not just our best intentions, it's our best strategic moves, okay? And that's what we have to do at this moment. And then what can you do? You can help us do all of these things. Badger your members of Congress. Badger them, politely. But let them know that this is important to you. It's important to everyone, right? This is not a niche issue. Clean water is essential to life. Clean air is essential to life. A good food supply that's uncontaminated is essential to life. Drinking water systems that are lead contaminated are essential to our well-being. Housing that is safe, green space, tree canopy, open space, clean recreational spaces, right? We just experienced here in Maryland the single largest sewer breakage in the history of the nation. 200 million gallons of raw sewage poured through a broken sewer line into the Potomac River. Now, as if that's not bad enough, the Potomac River is also the source of drinking water for everyone who lives in the DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia metropolitan area. Think about that when you're turning on those taps. This is a serious moment, and this bill speaks to that, right? It's happening all over the country. And if we don't take the opportunity at this time, we may not be able to turn it over to the next generation, as Mar said. So, not to scare the living Jesus out of you, but it's a serious moment. It's a serious moment when our government does not believe that environmental protection belongs to all of us, and it does. And they especially think it doesn't belong to us, right? So if there was ever a time to step forward, now is the time. Thank you so much for joining us.